keep a secret.
Is this a good movie? We'll see. Hey everyone, this is D, Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And today I'm coming to you all with a review for House of Gucci. Directed by Ridley Scott and starring Lady Gaga, Adam Driver, Jared Leto, and Al Pacino. Story-wise, the film is centered around Patrizia Reggiani, an outsider from humble beginnings, whose life takes a surprising shift when she romances and eventually marries Maurizio Gucci, the heir to the Gucci family's prestigious fashion house. But what begins as an unlikely love story quickly devolves into a devastating tale of greed, glamour, betrayal, and yes, even murder. So, I'm going to start with the pros. There were many aspects of this film that I enjoyed for very obvious reasons. First, let me say that this is definitely Ridley Scott's year, especially closing out 2021 with not just one, but two films. The Last Duel, which was just a month ago, and now House of Gucci. I think it's safe to say that the casting was pretty solid overall. We have some definite heavy hitters in this film. I think the performances just across the board are really on point. Lady Gaga has made such a seamless transition from music to acting, especially considering all the Best Actress nominations she received for her role as Ally in 2018's A Star is Born. Not neglecting the fact that she actually won an Oscar for Best Original Song with Shallow. Patrizia is a clear 180 from Ally, but I really appreciated the energy that Lady Gaga brought to this role. I could really feel her putting her all into this, and she really made the most out of every scene that she was in. Adam Driver, I mean, what can I say? I first remember seeing him in 2014's This Is Where I Leave You, and you talk about somebody's career just skyrocketing over the years. The fact that he has a lead role in both of Ridley Scott's films, The Last Duel and House of Gucci, I think that says it all, and I absolutely enjoyed his performance here, and especially the transformation, like Lady Gaga, from Jacques Legris to Maurizio Gucci. I also really enjoyed Jared Leto as Paolo. If you've been paying attention, then you know that Jared Leto is absolutely an actor who appreciates a physical transformation in his roles. From Chapter 27 to Dallas Buyers Club to Suicide Squad and plenty other films. And clearly this film is no different. But I really enjoyed the humor and the lighthearted energy that he brought to the film, which was needed because we obviously are taking some dark turns here. So I felt like whenever he was on screen, like he just really like lit up the film. He lit up every scene that he was in, and I really appreciated that. I thought the story that this film is based on was very compelling. For those of you who aren't aware, this is based on the 2001 book, The House of Gucci, a sensational story of murder, madness, glamour, and greed by Sarah Gay Fortin, which naturally is capturing this true life story that actually occurred. And I enjoyed seeing the initial progression of that, learning so much about the Gucci family and Gucci as a fashion house and its history and the changes that it went through from the early 80s all the way into the 90s and going forward. I thought that was so interesting. I also love seeing the beauty of Italy captured in this film, all the exterior and interior locations. You know, Italy is just, that is a top tier place as far as travel and visuals and all of that. So I was so happy to see that here, really enjoyed it. And if you are already somewhat familiar with me and my reviews, then you already know that some of my favorite films are period pieces, and anything that remotely resembles that, I am always, always here for. So seeing the culture of the 80s, the hairstyles and the clothing and the costumes, the fashion of Gucci and the soundtrack, the 80s music and all of that, I really enjoyed that. It was so much fun. Lastly, I liked the cameos that we saw here. They're not cameos in the literal sense, but we do have some very prolific names and prolific people that are showcased throughout the film. And it was really fun seeing some of those people and seeing them being depicted in a small piece in this film, but it definitely was something I enjoyed. All right, Now I'm going to jump over to the cons. Now, given all the reasons that I enjoyed this film, I was really not expecting to have the issues that I ended up having with it. I would say my first big con with this film is the characterization. As I said, I did appreciate the performances, and I think that everyone that was a part of this really brought something to the film. But I also felt like the characterization and the way that they were constructed, especially with the writing, I did not feel like it allowed me to connect to them as people or help me understand their motivations. And as a result, they didn't feel like real people, even though these were real people who existed. But I just think the approach to how they were constructed and how they were, I guess, brought to life in this film, I think it didn't really work. For instance, Lady Gaga as Patrizia. Once again, I think she was bringing her all. I think performance-wise, she was fine. But the way that she was written and the way that she was crafted within the film, she felt like more of a caricature than a real person. There were literally moments in this film where I felt like I was just watching a stock villain on screen. I just think the combination of the hair and the costumes and the accent and the dialogue, I feel like all she needed was an evil cackle, and she was basically Natasha from the Rocky and Bullwinkle show.
Think, darling, think. There must be something really rotten we can do today. I have it, darling. A contest. I like being evil because, in 25 words or less.
Same with Jared Leto as Paolo. Like I said, I enjoyed his character, I enjoyed the performance, but at the same time, the approach to the character with the makeup and with the scenarios that he's placed in and the dialogue, there's kind of a disconnect because there's all of this going on. I think taking that approach takes away the seriousness of these characters and understanding them on a deeper level. Now, I can't say a whole lot about accents because I am not a purist, I am not an expert, and I can't really get into the intricacies of accents and what inflections are this way and that. So I won't even pretend to act like I know anything about that. But speaking of accents, I have to say that there is an actor in this film who is so talented, supremely talented, but who I felt was absolutely miscast. Why, oh why, is Jeremy Irons in this film? Can anyone tell me? I mean, his look, that was fine, but as soon as he opened up his mouth, I said, no. Regardless of how anyone feels about the accents, which were a little all over the place, I will say at least the majority of the actors in this film were giving some semblance of an Italian accent, or at least an accent, if not Italian. We're talking about Rodolfo Gucci, and all I heard was suppressed British with small little semi-Italian inflections. It was so distracting. And it just kept taking me out of the film whenever he was on screen. And I also didn't understand the casting there because Giancarlo Giannini was right there. Right there. I also think the tone of this was all over the place. I felt like it was a mishmash of two different approaches to one film. I felt like this wanted to be a very serious, gritty, dark crime drama or crime thriller, but it never actually leans into that. Then it also wanted to be kind of light and comedic and quirky and focus on the fashion and the visuals and the style and kind of get lost in that. Basically trying to be this very campy, over-the-top soap opera. And it doesn't do a good job of mashing the two together. There are moments where you can see the two tones clashing, and it once again added to that disconnect I felt while I was watching this. My next con is the runtime. This film is 2 hours and 37 minutes, which normally is not an issue for me because I say all the time, I love longer films. What I don't like, however, are films whose pacing is completely off, as well as films who don't make the most of the runtime as far as storytelling and story progression. I think this film was way too long for what it chose to focus on, and the pacing made it even worse. But then at the same time, it was way too short for the scope of the story that it was attempting to tell. And what I mean by that is Patrizia and Maurizio's relationship is the focus of the story. But I feel like we spend way too much of that focusing on very minute surface details, as opposed to taking the time to flesh out very specific dynamics in their relationship so that then later down the road we understand why their relationship became what it became. So then what also made it too short is that you soon realize that all the things that we need to really understand the full scope of this story from beginning to end, it cannot fit in one film. So then we end up with a bunch of hopping and skipping and jumping because we have to move everything forward to reach the central scandal of the film, which means that there is this slowing down on very unimportant details and then this ramping up and speeding up and completely glossing over significant and important details. There is a lot of connective tissue that is missing as a result of that. So that means we don't end up understanding enough about Maurizio and his story arc and his relationship with his family and the transformation he eventually undergoes. That brings me to my last con, which is the ending. Or should I say ending? I say that because the quote unquote ending that we see is not really an ending. We're getting this huge time jump. So we're jumping from point A to point B, skipping over all these details as to how we got here. And then the scene in question is just us rolling your typical biopic, fact roll on the screen. And it's like, okay, this is what happened, and then this is what happened to this person, this happened, this, and I was like, did I miss something here? Did someone accidentally edit out a whole piece of the film? Was there something wrong with the projector? I was like, how did we just completely leap like this? So, like I said, obviously this is way too short because we don't even get into the aftermath of the scandal, the consequences, none of that, which you would think would be one of the more compelling aspects of the story, but we never see it play out. It was so obvious that it was okay, you know what? We don't have enough time. We got to wrap it up. We got to wrap it up. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Okay, and scene. Yeah, no. And unfortunately, this is yet another example of why the biopic genre would seem best suited to miniseries or limited series. It's just there is not enough time. And this was just another case of a film that was trying to tell a story that was very interesting and very layered and had all this depth and complexity, which got completely flattened by having to fit into this runtime, which is sad and unfortunate. So I'm going to go ahead and give House of Gucci a C-. I think conceptually this film had everything in place for it to be just spectacular. This was a slog, and I do mean a slog of a film. And it was so confusing because everything about this story should be absolutely compelling. But unfortunately, it made the mistake of taking a very compelling story and not allowing the audience to understand what was compelling about it in the first place. House of Gucci is now playing in theaters. You guys feel free to check it out, leave your thoughts below, and let me know what you think. So, once again, this is D Movieman, signing off, and I'll see you with the movies.